As I woke up, I found myself in a strange place. The ground was cold and hard, and the air was filled with a mix of hot steam and freezing cold air. Looking around, I realized that I was in some sort of labyrinth, surrounded by walls of ice and geysers shooting up from the ground. My heart started racing as I remembered the events that led me to this place. I had been wandering through the woods, trying to find my way back home, when suddenly I stumbled upon a hidden entrance. Without thinking, I had entered the mysterious maze, not knowing what was waiting for me inside. As I started walking, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. I looked over my shoulder, but there was no one there. I tried to calm myself down, reminding myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But my fears turned out to be real when I heard a loud growling noise. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. Slowly, I turned around and saw a twisted ravager lurking in the shadows. It was a bipedal monster with sharp claws and glowing red eyes. I could feel its hunger and desire to hunt down its prey. I knew I had to run, and I did. I ran as fast as I could, my heart racing and my breaths coming out in short gasps. I could hear the ravager's heavy footsteps behind me, getting closer and closer. I knew I couldn't outrun it forever, so I had to find a way out of this maze. I started looking for any signs or clues that could lead me to the exit. As I turned a corner, I saw a faint light in the distance. My heart fluttered with hope as I ran towards it. But as I got closer, I realized it was just a geyser shooting up from the ground. Feeling defeated, I turned around and saw the twisted ravager right behind me. I closed my eyes, waiting for the inevitable attack, but it never came. When I opened my eyes, I saw that the ravager was gone. Confused, I looked around and saw that I was in a different part of the maze. I couldn't understand how I got there, but I knew I had to keep moving. As I explored the maze, I encountered more twisted ravengers, but each time they disappeared without attacking me. It was as if they were leading me somewhere. Finally, I reached the end of the maze. But instead of finding an exit, I found a small room with a table and chairs. On the table, there were trading cards scattered around. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had always been a collector of trading cards, and these were rare and valuable ones. As I picked them up, I heard a voice behind me. Congratulations, you have made it to the end. I turned around and saw a man sitting on one of the chairs. He had a mischievous smile on his face, and his eyes sparkled with amusement. Who are you? I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and excitement. I am the creator of this maze, the man replied. And you, my friend, are the first person to ever make it to the end. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had survived the twisted ravengers and made it to the end of the maze, all for a set of trading cards. But as I looked at the cards in my hand, I realized that they were not just any ordinary cards. They were magical cards with special powers. The man explained that he had created this maze as a challenge for anyone brave enough to enter. And those who made it to the end were rewarded with these powerful trading cards. With a grateful heart, I thanked the man and left the maze, feeling victorious and grateful for the unexpected adventure. And from that day on, I became known as the one who conquered the mysterious labyrinth and won the magical trading card. As I woke up, I found myself in an abandoned building that was crumbling around me. My head was throbbing and my vision was blurred. I tried to move, but my body felt weak and heavy. As I looked around, I saw a small rat roach nibbling on my arm. I screamed and quickly brushed it off, feeling disgusted and terrified. I tried to stand up, but my legs gave out and I fell back to the ground. I felt a sharp pain in my head as memories flooded my mind. I couldn't remember anything, not even my name. I sat there for a moment, trying to make sense of my situation. Where was I? How did I get here? Who am I? These questions raced through my mind, but I had no answers. I could only focus on the present moment. I looked around the room, taking in my surroundings. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, the ceiling was crumbling, and the floor was covered in debris. It was clear that this building had been abandoned for a long time. I noticed a door across the room and slowly made my way towards it, using the walls for support. As I reached the door, I tried to open it, but it was stuck. I pushed with all my might and finally, it gave way, sending me tumbling to the ground. I looked up and saw a bright light shining through the open door. I shielded my eyes and crawled towards the light. As I exited the building, I was greeted by the harsh rays of the sun. My eyes adjusted and I saw that I was in the middle of a wasteland. The landscape was desolate, with ruins of buildings and destroyed cars scattered everywhere. My heart raced as I realized that I was in a post-apocalyptic world. But why couldn't I remember anything? I stood up and took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. I needed to find out who I was and how I ended up here. I started walking, not knowing where I was going, but hoping to find some answers. As I walked, I came across a few other abandoned buildings. I searched through them, hoping to find something that could give me some clues about my identity. But all I found were empty rooms and broken furniture. Just when I was about to give up hope, I stumbled upon a small house hidden behind a pile of rubble. I cautiously approached it and knocked on the door. When no one answered, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The inside of the house was surprisingly intact. I walked around, searching for any signs of life. That's when I saw a picture on the wall. It was a family photo, and I was in it. My heart skipped a beat as I looked at the photo. I recognized the woman in the picture as myself. But who were the people standing next to me? Were they my family? I couldn't remember them. I searched the rest of the house, hoping to find some more clues. I found a journal on a desk and eagerly flipped through the pages. It was my journal, filled with my thoughts and memories. As I read through the pages, I slowly started to remember bits and pieces of my life. I was a scientist before the war, working on a project that could change the world. But then the bombs fell, and everything changed. I remember being in a vault, a safe place from the destruction outside. But something went wrong, and I was forced to leave the safety of the vault. That's when I must have ended up in that abandoned building. My memories were still scattered, but I finally knew who I was. I was Dr. Samantha Smith, a scientist from before the Great War. I had survived the nuclear devastation, but at what cost? As I closed the journal, tears welled up in my eyes. I had lost everything and everyone I loved. But I was determined to keep going. I may have lost my past, but I still had a future to build. And I was going to make the best of it. My name is Sarah, and I am stuck in a never-ending cycle. I have lost track of how long I have been trapped in this dungeon, but it feels like an eternity. Every day is the same, and every night I am thrown back into this cursed place. I am not sure how I got here, or why I am here. All I know is that I am stuck in this loop, reliving the same moments over and over again. I wake up in this damp, dark dungeon and try to remember how I got here. But every time, my memory is hazy and I cannot recall anything beyond my last waking moment. The dungeon is a never-ending maze of stone walls and winding corridors. There are no windows, no doors, just endless paths that lead to dead ends. I have tried to escape, but every time I think I have found a way out, I am brought back to the beginning, my memory erased once again. I have lost count of how many times I have gone through this cycle. Days, weeks, months, maybe even years. Time has no meaning in this place. I have stopped aging, stopped feeling hunger or thirst. It's as if I am frozen in time, trapped in this never-ending loop. At first, I was terrified. I screamed, I cried, I begged for someone to help me. But as the days turned into months, and the months turned into years, I have become numb to it all. It's as if I am a spectator in my own life, watching the same events unfold over and over again. I have tried to make sense of it all, to find a reason for my never-ending imprisonment. But there is no rhyme or reason to it. It's as if I am a toy in some cruel game, being played by an unseen hand. I have tried to find companionship in this place, but I am always alone. There are no other prisoners, no guards, no signs of life. It's as if I am the only one existing in this never-ending loop. The only thing that changes in this place is the state of my mind. Some days, I am filled with rage and frustration, screaming and pounding on the walls. Other days, I am filled with hope, convinced that I will find a way out of this hell. But no matter what emotions I go through, I am always brought back to the beginning, my memories wiped clean. It's as if I am stuck in a time loop, destined to repeat the same moments for eternity. I have tried to change my actions to see if that would break the cycle. But every time I try something different, the outcome is always the same. It's as if I am living in a predetermined world with no control over my own fate. There are days when I wonder if I am already dead, trapped in some sort of purgatory. But then I feel the pain of hunger and thirst, and I know that I am still alive, still stuck in this cursed dungeon. As the days go by, I have started to forget my life before this place. I struggle to remember my family, my friends, my past. It's as if this dungeon has consumed my entire existence, erasing everything that came before it. But there is one thing that I can never forget, the feeling of hopelessness. The feeling that I am forever trapped in this never-ending loop with no escape in sight. I don't know what I have done to deserve this fate, but I am certain that I will never find peace until I break free from this cursed place. And so, I will continue to search for a way out, to break the cycle and finally find my way back to the real world. My name is Alice and I have been living in Diamond City for as long as I can remember. I was born here, in the heart of the Commonwealth, where the ruins of Boston still stand tall and the radiation still lingers in the air. But despite the harsh conditions, Diamond City has always been a place of hope and survival. I remember when I was a child, Diamond City was just a small settlement, a few families trying to make a life for themselves in this desolate wasteland. But as the years went by, more and more people flocked to Diamond City, seeking refuge from the dangers of the outside world. And with the help of a few brave individuals, including my parents, Diamond City grew bigger and stronger, reclaiming more land and resources for its people. But as the city grew, so did the corruption within its walls. The leadership, once noble and just, became consumed with greed and power. They began to make decisions that only benefited themselves, while the rest of us struggled to survive. The once hopeful and thriving community was now divided and oppressed. I watched as my parents, who were once respected members of the community, were cast aside and left to fend for themselves. They were no longer needed or wanted by the corrupt leaders. And it wasn't just my parents, many others suffered the same fate. It was clear that something needed to be done, but no one had the courage to stand up against the powerful leaders of Diamond City. I, too, was afraid. I didn't want to risk my life or the lives of my loved ones. But as I watched my community suffer, I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. I knew I had to do something, even if it meant going against the leaders of Diamond City. So, I started a business. At first, it was just a way for me to make a living and survive in this harsh world. But as my business grew, so did my resolve to fight against the corrupt leaders. I used my business as a front, a way to gather information and resources for those who were brave enough to stand up against the leadership. I would twist my words and make deals with the leaders, all while secretly working with the resistance. I knew I was taking a risk, but I couldn't just stand by and watch as my community suffered under the leadership's tyranny. As my business grew, so did the resistance. We were a small group, but we were determined to bring justice to Diamond City. We would meet in secret, planning and strategizing our next move. And through my business, I was able to gather valuable information about the leaders' plans and their weaknesses. But as our resistance gained momentum, I started to feel the weight of my actions. I was putting my loved ones in danger, and I knew that the leaders wouldn't hesitate to retaliate against those who went against them. I struggled with my decision, torn between my duty to the community and my desire to keep my loved ones safe. But then, something happened that changed everything. The leaders of Diamond City made a decision that would affect every single person living within its walls. They were going to cut off resources to the outside world, leaving us all to fend for ourselves. It was a death sentence for many, including my parents who relied on outside resources for their survival. That was the final straw for me. I couldn't just stand by and watch as my community suffered and died because of the selfish actions of the leaders. It was time for the resistance to take action. I rallied my fellow resistance members and we launched an attack on the leaders. It was a risky move, but we had the element of surprise on our side. And with the help of the people of Diamond City, who were tired of being oppressed, we were able to overthrow the corrupt leaders and take control of the city. It wasn't an easy battle, and many lives were lost, but in the end, justice prevailed. Diamond City was finally free from the tyranny of the corrupt leaders. And as I stood on the balcony of the mayor's office, looking out at the city I grew up in, I knew that it was all worth it. I had started as a simple business owner, just trying to survive in this harsh world. But in the end, I became a leader, a symbol of hope for my community. And as I looked out at the people of Diamond City, all coming together to rebuild and make a better life for themselves, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together as a united community. My name is Jack and I have been living in this zombie apocalypse for what feels like forever. It all started when a virus broke out and turned people into mindless zombies. The world as we knew it was gone, and now it's just survival of the fittest. I live in a small community of survivors, and we have managed to build a safe haven for ourselves. It's not much, just a few buildings surrounded by walls made of scrap metal and wooden planks. But it's enough to keep us safe from the zombies that roam outside. Every day, we have to be on constant guard against the zombies. They are relentless and will do anything to get to us. So we have to constantly reinforce our defenses to make sure they don't break through. One of the main defenses we have are the walls. We have built them tall and sturdy, using whatever materials we could find. It's a never-ending process, as the zombies are always trying to break them down. We have to constantly patch up any weak spots and make sure they are strong enough to withstand the weight of the zombies pushing against them. But walls alone aren't enough to keep us safe. We also have turrets set up along the walls. These are makeshift weapons that we have created using old pipes and whatever scraps of metal we could find. They are loaded with ammunition and are triggered by motion sensors. Whenever a zombie comes close, the turrets start firing, taking them down one by one. It's a cruel but necessary measure. We have lost many friends and loved ones to this apocalypse. And we can't afford to let our guard down, even for a moment. The turrets are our last line of defense, and they have saved us countless times. But our defenses are not just limited to walls and turrets. We have also set up spikes around the perimeter of our community. These are long wooden sticks with sharp ends that we have dug into the ground. The zombies don't have the intelligence to avoid them, so they often impale themselves on the spikes as they try to get to us. It's a gruesome sight, but it's necessary. The spikes have helped us thin out the zombie population around our community. And it also serves as a warning to other zombies that this is not a place to mess with. Building and maintaining these defenses is a never-ending task. It's physically and mentally exhausting. But it's something we have to do if we want to survive in this world. One day, while I was on watch duty, I noticed a large group of zombies approaching our walls. They were more than we could handle with just our turrets and spikes. I quickly sounded the alarm and everyone sprang into action. We all grabbed whatever weapons we could find and rushed to the walls. The zombies were relentless, pushing against the walls with all their might. The turrets were firing non-stop, but they seemed to be multiplying by the minute. We knew we had to do something to stop them from breaking through. So we came up with a plan to set up barricades in front of the walls. We used old cars, furniture, and anything else we could find to create a barrier between us and the zombies. It was a risky move, but it worked. The zombies were confused by the sudden change in the landscape, and it gave us enough time to take them down with our weapons. It was a long and bloody battle, but we managed to defeat them and keep our walls intact. As we stood there covered in blood and sweat, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. We had once again proven that we were not just survivors, but fighters. We were not going to let this apocalypse defeat us. But even as we celebrated our victory, we knew that this was just one battle in a never-ending war. The zombies will keep coming, and we will have to keep fighting. Our defenses will need constant reinforcement, and we will have to come up with new strategies to stay alive. But as long as we have each other and our strong defenses, we have a fighting chance in this zombie apocalypse. And we will do whatever it takes to keep our community safe and our walls standing tall.